daybreak on the floodwall that protects downtown Augusta, Georgia from the Savannah River. This is my favorite shot in Augusta, a high vantage looking down on a classic through-truss bridge. The classic bridge sends the train immediately onto classic street running down the middle of Augusta's 6th Street. These Norfolk Southern trains come out of Columbia, South Carolina from the north and Savannah via Millen, Georgia from the south. This is train 191 with fairly interesting power. The X-Conrail-8 and 2 EMD high hoods, an SD40-2 and a GP38-2. Right here at 6th Street, the Norfolk Southern Columbia to Augusta line pierces the levee, just in case there are specially cut timbers that stack up in the opening to block any high water. Thanks to this levee and 3 dams upriver, floodwaters do not normally threaten downtown Augusta anymore. This spring 2003, the war in Iraq is still building up, and these armored personnel carriers are on the way to the coast for shipment to the war zone. In one of those missed it by that much episodes, I got here just in time to see the power already gone by on a kaolin train. Kaolin is a remarkable mineral mined in Middle Georgia and shipped in these tank cars as a wet slurry. Kaolin is used in ceramics for making fine china, medical compounds and cosmetics, latex paint, plastic wire insulation, and auto tires. Most of the kaolin mined in Georgia is used for the paper industry for making fine high-gloss and lightweight papers. The Norfolk Southern Trestle over the Savannah River makes a great photo location, even on a crummy, rainy day. In my limited travels, I've discovered that some of the best rail fanning is found in the early mornings. Railroad service designers seem to want trains to either depart or arrive at terminals during the pre-dawn, so the fishing is good in these hours. This northbound is departing Norfolk Southern's Nixon Yard in Augusta and headed for Columbia, South Carolina. The street trackage is shared by both NS and CSX and owned by both. Actually, this is the Augusta and Somerville Railroad. Chartered in 1866, the A&S was a horse-drawn line with 3 miles of track through and around downtown Augusta. By 1900, the horses had all passed on, and the line was sold off in equal shares to the Southern, the Central of Georgia, the Charleston and Western Carolina, and the Georgia Railroad. Mergers made those 4 roads 2, and so it is today that in order to get into or out of Augusta, both NS and CSX must traverse the Augusta and Somerville Railroad. At the southern end of the A&S, underneath the Walton Way overpass, the CSX comes in. From here, a 1-mile piece of the A&S leads to a junction on the ex-Georgia and the ex-C&WC railroads. Now the Georgia and McCormick subs. This is Q198 coming off the Georgia sub out of Atlanta. To and from CSX Augusta Yard, trains have to pass 3 junction switches. Now, when a 6,000 or 7,000 foot train stops to line a switch, it blocks quite a few crossings in a city of this size. This had long been a bone of contention between the railroads and Augusta residents. So in 2001, in one of the first installations of its kind, CSX replaced the manual switches with radio-controlled power switches. At the junction of the Georgia Road and the C&WC, the 11th Street switch now enables trains to cross the business district on the western side of downtown without stopping. CSX's Q126 has lined the junction switch for a trip from downtown out the Georgia Road. He's bound for Atlanta. Same here at Central Junction on the south end of 6th Street.
Central Junction switch line for Norfolk Southern Main Line.
6th Street is also home to Norfolk Southern's small transfer and storage yard. Most notably, this is where NS parks its office car train when it's in town for the Masters Golf Tournament. On a rainy Christmas weekend in 2001, I met up with 2 rail fans I got to know on trips to Folkestone, Georgia, Stuart Lodge and Alex Willis. The highlight for this day was an NS freight doubling out of Nixon Yard with a Union Pacific SD 9043 AC leading. The Savannah River is the force that created the city of Augusta. Barges and boats were loaded with Georgia cotton here and carried it down to the ocean port at Savannah. The Augusta Canal, recently under rehabilitation, harnessed the river's energy for textile mills and the Confederate States powder works. Though no longer operating, some of those mills still stand. South of town, the Charleston and Western Carolina crosses the Savannah River as the CSX Augusta sub. While this is not the actual river crossing, it is an outflow from the river. But the steel deck bridge was enough to catch my attention one December evening. This is a Conrad Yelvington rock train bound for Florida. And that's where I'm headed to. On the Savannah River in Augusta, Georgia, this is Danny Harmon, out.